Hello and welcome to this special episode of The Human Frequency. It's been a harrowing past couple of days because relatives of mine were involved in the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting that occurred this past Saturday, October 27th.
The shooting occurred on Saturday morning while people were in services, and the gunman came in and shouted out that all Jews must die and opened fire, and he wounded one of Gabriel's relatives and killed another.
Yes, my great aunt, which is a distant relative, but she was the 97-year-old woman, Rose Mallinger. Her husband was the younger brother of my great-grandma. And so when we heard the news, we actually saw it on the internet window that we had up, and I recognized the neighborhood, the Squirrel Hill neighborhood, as where my great-uncle lives. Most of my mom's side still lives in Pittsburgh. And my parents, who just so happened to be visiting Pittsburgh at the time, I was very concerned about them, obviously, even though they don't go to service, but I didn't know very many details about what was going on at that point because it was still early. So I called my mom to find out if she was okay, and they're fine, but she said that Rose and my cousin both were in attendance there, and my cousin's fine. She was wounded in the arm, just a flesh wound, and she's in the hospital recovering, but we don't know about Rose. That's what she said to me. So obviously I was very concerned because they don't know about her, and they're at that point we're saying 8 people dead. I think the final tally turned out to be 11 or 12.
There were 11 people dead as the final tally, and I think it was 12 actually. It raised to 12 because one of the wounded died.
Yeah, died overnight or something.
And the wounded were 4 police officers that intervened and Gabriel's cousin.
Yes, and so she's fine, but then later in the day I heard the news that that my great aunt Rose Mallinger was dead because of this, and it hit very hard, obviously, because you don't expect these types of things to happen to you. It's not something you can prepare for. You hear it on the news, and you wonder how much of it is real and how much of it is played up by the media and to get their fear mechanism going amongst the people. But when it actually happens like this, it's very difficult, and I think you can understand why.
We hear about these stories every week. There's another one, and we live near a fire station, and that flag is at half-mast half the time. Every time there's a tragedy like this, that flag is at half-mast. And we are always talking about false flags and hoaxes. That's what people talk about a lot in regards to these shootings. And I actually, unfortunately, succumbed to that idea that a lot of these are hoaxes, and I apologize for ever saying that about any particular attack, because now what I realize is that very likely the white supremacists in the right-wing independent media are very likely to call this a hoax, and I can tell you it's quite real when a family member dies. So while some of these larger events may have crisis actors involved, we really don't know what actually goes on at these things. I can tell you that I very much believe that people are dying at all of them. So I don't want to belittle any more of these events, and I think I learned a very hard lesson this way, because I think I've belittled them. I called Sandy Hook a hoax. I don't know if it is. If people die, they die.
Well, yeah, we weren't there. We weren't there, so we don't know.
And they might be false flags. I actually think they're all false flags. I think they're all planned out and orchestrated. I think they're designed to create fear and hatred and race wars. And that's the object here. So I actually use this as an exercise to not feel those racist feelings myself, because they choose a guy to do this attack that is the stereotypical, hillbilly, redneck, racist. And It's really sad because it does create hatred, and I don't want to fall into that. I don't want to hate any race, and white people are a race, and I shouldn't be hating anyone. So, they pick somebody that creates anger. And that's how they do it. And for a long time, they were trying to scapegoat Middle Eastern people in order to get us to want to go to wars with them. And it's all just BS. It's all fake. But real people are dying. And that part is real. And that's the really horrible part.
It is horrible, and to think that you could just be in a house of worship, a house of God, doing your best to further your relationship with God, and some racist can just charge in there with an AR-15 and just start firing. It's very bad. And of course, and as soon as the vigil is held afterwards, there's people talking about gun control, and they're chanting "vote, vote, vote." Like,
Right.
that's going to accomplish anything.
Gun control is going to keep a psychopath from being given a gun, by the way, hired or created for this job, this role, and committing the act.
Right, and it's quite obvious to us that this was not just some guy who woke up in the morning, drank some coffee, loaded up his guns, and went in there and flawlessly just proceeded to shoot people for 20 minutes.
Right.
This was perhaps not even a human. That's what we're thinking.
We don't think he is necessarily human.
Due to the precision of the stereotyping, which seems to happen all the time, these so-called perpetrators are just, like you said, Sharon, they're all the same every time. Just like they're following a formula. And because it's so formulaic, we have reason to believe that, no, this was not actually a human. This was a clone or a robot, or who knows.
You see, humans don't want any of this. And I know that. Nobody wants this. And I think they want us to think people want this. And I think a long time ago, in fact, they did. Because back in the days of Nazi Germany, people were just letting this stuff happen. Here in the United States, people were just letting horrible segregation happen. They were letting black people be mistreated and abused. I mean, it's horrific.
Or killed.
Exactly. Like their lives don't matter. And it's horrific how racism has been able to just be perpetuated. But what I see now is I don't think people feel that way anymore. I don't think it's easy to create hatred like that anymore amongst real people. And I feel strongly that this gunman was not human. And I think in a lot of these cases, they're not. In the Las Vegas shootings, I don't know if that guy was real. We know that there was a lot of mysterious weirdness around that one because this guy got into his hotel room with a ton of guns and nobody saw him from security. Of course, the right-wing white supremacist Jim Fetzer blamed the Jews for that. I was listening to his story of that killing spree with a lot of interest until he went ahead and blamed my people for this. And by the way, 2 weeks before Gabriel and I were in Las Vegas giving out orgonite everywhere, we distributed about 150 pieces there, and we are Jewish. So I would have to say
he obviously failed to consult with us before.
He didn't ask us. He thought maybe we were behind all those attacks. But in fact, we were trying to stop that kind of stuff from happening. So we just so happened to be Jewish, but not that it really matters, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think that people listening to this will understand what I mean when I say that when you first start getting into subversive content, subversive material of any kind, I think one of the first things you really learn about is the divide and conquer strategy. That's kind of the very beginning, like the fundamentals of what consists of going down the rabbit hole, as they call it, or taking the red pill, things like that. And the divide and conquer strategy is right at the heart of this because people are starting to do the opposite. They are starting to be aware of other people and that they're the same as they are. You know, we're always told to emphasize the differences between us when in reality there's so much between us that is exactly the same, and that's what they don't want us to see in the other people, because then there wouldn't be all of this violence.
Right.
And that's what's going on, and that's why they have to create these artificial types of violence, which is what we've seen here in Pittsburgh.
And based on the message board on the GoFundMe page for the victims and their families, I would have to say that the people of Pittsburgh are standing behind the victims and their families, regardless of race or religion. There were all kinds of names on there, all kinds of surnames to indicate a variety of cultures. And I know that the people of Pittsburgh are appalled by this and do not support it. This is insane that this happened in a place so diverse.
Yeah, we'll post a link to that GoFundMe page in the description below. it's very important that people see what's going on here and to not fall into the traps of blaming others for it, like blaming Trump or blaming lax gun laws or things that are just not at all the point, but are just there to distract us from what the real problem is.
We need to attack the parasites at the source, and that's the problem. This problem is not human in origin. And I don't think you're going to hear about this on any other YouTube channel regarding this shooting, if anybody's even covering it. I don't know. I haven't looked around. I have a really strong feeling that the right-wing independent media is going to call it a hoax and say terrible things about Jews, which is another reason that we dropped out of the independent media, because I'm tired of the hatred. I'm tired of all of the racism. And in general, I just see way too much racism and anti-Semitism and homophobia in the independent media, and it's really becoming just extremely off-putting. So we're not in that world anymore. I don't care to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah, and it's important for all of you out there to disassociate yourself when you come across something that's hateful and is stirring up bad emotions in people. It's very important to just... If you sorry to say it, for lack of a better word, just be ballsy and just sever the connection, whatever it may be, whatever the cost may be. You know, even if it's a loved one or family, friend, it doesn't matter. There's no we're come on, it's 2018, for God's sake. We got to get past this already. This is not hundreds of years ago when it was acceptable to just butcher an entire race of people just because they worship the same God as you do, but they channel it differently.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, back to the news itself. So when we received the news, we were obviously very distraught, and you know, Sharon, like you're saying, like we just know that the people are going to come out and start saying wrong things in the independent media. So we felt the need to just come on here completely unscripted. We're just talking right now. Just
to let you know, it did happen, and
it's real.
We want to share it with you because we think it's important to share with our online community and friends that these things are real. And I actually feel like I made some mistakes in the past to think that a lot of these attacks were not even real and that these were all actors, because I listened to people that were not telling me the truth. And now I don't just listen to it at face value. And if a certain emotion arises within me when I'm looking at the media and I start to feel bad feelings and it starts to stir up parts of me that I don't really want stirred up and makes me feel hatred, I realize I still am susceptible to anger and hatred. And if I'm feeling those feelings, something is wrong, because I know those feelings are wrong in me. So when I see something like that, I realize what they're doing, and I have to disassociate, like Gabe said.
Well, awareness is key, and those are the exact emotions that they want us to feel, is that they want us getting in that compromised emotional state where we're not relying on reason anymore. We're just going purely on emotions, whatever we feel in the heat of the moment. And that's when misunderstandings can happen, and that breeds problems. That breeds the exact division that they're going for. So we have to be stronger than that. We have to not stoop to that level. We have to rise above it. And there are many ways we can do that, but we really try to offer the same information that we have offered for years on our YouTube channel and on our website to get people away from that old mode of thinking and into a new mode that's what's best for getting along and what's best for survival.
Well, the parasites, they need to feed, and we talk about this all the time. They are controlling this world in ways that we should not be allowing. In the movie Avatar, the people fought back when the parasites came to destroy their lives, and they did destroy their lives. They destroyed the home tree, the giant tree that all the people lived in.
Plot spoilers, sorry.
Oh, right. I think that's true. I think people do know about Avatar by now. It's kind of an older film. But they came to destroy, and the people fought back. Here on Earth, somehow we have just been hit and bombarded over and over and over again with this destruction, and we just keep taking it as normal. We just think this is normal. And I think what the parasites want to do is they want to create this artificial hatred between races and between people of different faiths and all kinds of reasons that people are different, and get us to kill each other so they don't have to do the work. They get so much food off of human suffering. They trick us into going to war. They trick us into killing our friends in other countries. For what?
Well, the wars are not working so much anymore, fortunately. But what's going on now is that, and these people that are at the candlelight vigils chanting "vote, vote, vote,"
Yeah.
and are blaming Trump, they're offering these completely empty, baseless epithets that ensure that the problems keep going on rather than being fixed, because everybody wants this to stop. Everybody wants it to stop. You look at the comments on the GoFundMe page, it's just everyone's horrified, and everyone, it's terrible. Everyone agrees that it's terrible, and everyone agrees that it must stop, but they just don't know how to go about doing it. That's why we are here today, to offer what we have to offer.
Well, I think gifting orgonite is a great way to stop this kind of stuff. But I do notice also a trend in places where we've done a lot of gifting that they get attacked almost immediately after the gifting. So then I feel bad, and I wonder, should I not have done this? But what's happening is we are changing the energy to be life-affirming and good for humans, animals, plants, everything that's native to Earth. And we're making it impossible for these artificial intelligence entities to live here. So they get very, very upset, and they want to create more suffering, because that's how they feed, that's how they live. They need DOR, and they need suffering. So we gifted Las Vegas, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, there was that shooting. This happened in San Bernardino right after we gifted that area. This happened in so many places. Yeah. And I know what they're doing. And, I really wish we could stop these attacks, but I think that we all just need to put in our own effort into our own areas just to create more harmony. Gifting orgonite is a great way to do it. You actually see amazing results without having to even talk to anyone about it.
The funny thing is, it actually doesn't take all that much if you think about it. Here's a thought. If the parasites are creating all of these attacks just to generate more food for themselves, they're obviously not getting the food that they once had, and they're getting desperate, is what I'm trying to say. And we can capitalize on that desperation by continuing to gift orgonite, which reduces their food sources more and more and more. And my thanks go out to everyone who has contributed on our website for the last, I can't really give a block of time.
Several years.
But especially the last month or so, it has helped us because we donated an incredible amount of time and orgonite pieces this summer to restabilizing the weather, especially in the Pacific Northwest area. Yeah. And we're looking forward to a nice winter as a result of that. But the point is, it couldn't have happened without your generous contributions. So to everyone who has bought orgonite from us recently and also way in the past, thank you very much.
And thank you for gifting, and thank you for your wonderful feedback. I've gotten some very positive emails recently, and that definitely offsets this tragedy. I feel better just talking about this because it was really, really hurtful. And Gabriel and I also experienced anti-Semitism in our community, and very recently. So it's a very recent wound for us. And coming from Los Angeles, we just don't experience that much because LA is a diverse city, and people are not full of racial hatred in LA so much. I mean, we know all kinds of people there, and I never experienced anything like this. So we are in this smaller community and literally went for weeks without a functioning water heater because the plumber our landlord hired refused to work on the home of Jews. And it was unbelievable. We couldn't believe what had happened. So without getting into that story in too much detail, it was extremely shocking and hurtful to us, coming from LA where people just don't think that way. So then right after that happens, this happens. So we're kind of a little sensitive right now. But this can happen to anybody. It's not a racial thing. It's not a religion thing. People all over the world are getting attacked in this way. And I know the parasites need that food source, and that's another reason we know these are real. These are not hoaxes, and this is proof to us too, because after this happened to our own family, we realized, oh, wow, they are really doing this stuff, and they're feeding off of that fear, and they feed off the hatred, and they want us against each other because they feed off that too. So let's just not like fall into that trap.
Right. And there's so many sources of fear in that instance. You have the people who are victims of the attack. They're completely traumatized and will be for some time. There are the people that are nearby but were not actually involved, and now they're just in a spooked state. And there are people many miles away, hundreds or thousands of miles away even, but they go to synagogues and now they're worried.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even feel comfortable going into one without an armed guard out front.
So this is what happens in these instances, and like you said, this is strong evidence that no, there are no hoaxes of this kind, because where would the parasite's food be with a hoax? It's non-existent. So it wouldn't be worth their energy to make hoaxes,
right?
Just to fool people on
it's a waste of
sites.
Time. It's a waste of time for them to just make a hoax without people dying. So, I think that they get something out of both. I think they do like to get people to change people's minds in this way.
Right. So, yes, it was crazy for us. We can only imagine I can only imagine what the Mallingers are going through. Mm-hmm. As well as the other people who lost loved ones in this. And for every one of these, there's
like one every week now, and
those are all families that are going through this very same thing, and it's got to stop. And it's serious this time.
It's serious every time. It's serious to us this time, and that's the point. That when it hits your own family, it's like it's different.
When I say it's serious this time, I'm just saying I personally now have an experience to center myself around. And that's why I'm talking to you right now and trying to get people to see what they can really do so that they're not wasting time doing some dead-end thing that won't accomplish anything.
Voting, for example, is a dead-end thing that won't accomplish anything.
Yep.
And I do want to add also that these attacks are not just in the form of shootings, but in directed energy weapons, like what happened in Santa Rosa, which were they used the 9/11 weapon pretty much, and of course 9/11. But we've talked about that before, and we'll talk about it again. This was directed free energy weapons and caused massive suffering to thousands of people and deaths. So they used this weapon in Santa Rosa, and I also saw a lot of evidence that they used it in Ventura to make fires. They will do whatever it takes to create suffering. So yeah, they'll do shootings. They'll also destroy people's homes. These parasites have got to be stopped. And that is pretty much all I have left to say about this. I really just wanted to get out these feelings and share with you how this affected us. And really, the solution to me still remains the same as the solution to everything we've been working on all these years, which is we must get rid of the parasites. We must expel them from our dimension. I don't exactly know what they are, but I know they're not human. And we see in the sky how orgonite expels them. And Wilhelm Reich also saw how orgone energy, he didn't have orgonite, how orgone energy expels them.
Yes, we have to capitalize on that fact, because we have shown time and time again what that energy does to them and their energy field. And yeah, it's just all the more urgent to start doing it now, because the sooner we do it, the better shape we'll be in as a species and as a planet. And the things I'm trying to bring to the table, as I'm just going to wrap it up here, it's just all about awareness. Awareness of God, awareness of truth, awareness of self, and awareness of love. And that's the best I can offer. Thank you for listening to this. Again, we will post the GoFundMe page in the description section. And please visit our website, thekembo.com. And we offer orgonite for sale. We offer recipes on how to make your own. We encourage that.
We have a very good tutorial video on how to make tower busters. And we do urge people to start making orgonite and gifting their cities, because we clearly can't be everywhere. We tapped ourselves out this summer, going all these different places. So there's only a limit to what we can do. We've done a lot, but we're very thankful to those who have contributed.
We certainly are. And
we hope you make your own orgonite too.
That video's got 43,000 views on it, and that's with YouTube's view suppression. So think of how many people are doing this right now. It's so easy. Just take the time to learn how to do it. We thank you so very much for listening to this. Blessings go out to all of the families involved in this attack and all of the others. We will be back next time. Thank you for listening.